Lonely CEO's daughter, 10 years old, discovers unexpected love when a stranger becomes her only friend. Lily stood in the corner of the lavish room, her stomach twisting as she watched her father on stage, his polished smile lighting up the crowd. The corporate charity event buzzed with excitement, filled with faces focusing on her father, the powerful CEO of a top firm in downtown Chicago. They wanted a piece of his world, but Lily felt shackled in a gilded cage, a world she did not choose. The silence pressed down on her, louder than the chatter around her. Her own voice drowned out by her father's speech, which was nothing more than strings of ambition wrapped in hollow gratitude. She could feel her heart race as she scanned the crowd. This was not the life she envisioned. She craved genuine connection, a family bond beyond the confines of wealth and success. Once dinner was served, the networking resumed with a vicious hunger, leaving her standing alone. She hesitated, her feet frozen to the marbled floor, torn between obedience to her father and the desperate longing for freedom. To escape would be disobedience, but so was remaining here, trapped in a whirlpool of suits and fake laughter. So, with a deep breath, she maneuvered through the crowd, slipping outside into the cool evening. As she stepped into the park, the rush of life and laughter overwhelmed her. The stark contrast to the event felt exhilarating. Her muscles relaxed, her mind raced. She watched families, children playing, and felt an ache of longing for connection without pretense. Just as she settled onto a bench beneath a tall oak, her eyes caught a boy, Jake, playing with a ragged soccer ball, laughter bubbling up from a group of friends nearby. His laughter was infectious, and something inside her stirred. "Hey, wanna play?" he called out to her, his smile broader than the horizon. She didn't know how to respond, but felt a flutter of hope, a flicker of belonging. Without thinking, she found herself nodding, a smile creeping onto her lips. As they kicked the ball back and forth, their conversation spilled out like petals in spring. She shared sweet, tender dreams of a happy family, where laughter poured through the halls, free from the stress that shadowed her every move. He opened up about his own world, revealing how he helped his single mom at home. His openness struck a chord deep within her. What she desperately craved was finally within reach. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious. Who's on the other side of the screen? Now, let's continue. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Lily felt alive, something she hadn't felt in years. But then, a twinge of guilt twisted within her. Would her father approve? What if he found out? Anxiety clawed at her, threatening to suffocate the joy she had just discovered. At that moment, she was faced with a dizzying realization. Could she nurture this unlikely bond without disappointing her father? A clench of despair settled like a weight on her heart. The share of laughter, of dreams and vulnerability, now sat like a dragon waiting to be uncovered. What if bringing Jake into her life only pushed her deeper into her father's world of loneliness? As she entered the quiet of her luxurious home that night, Lily felt the walls tightening around her. The facade of her perfectly orchestrated life now crumbling beneath the promise of true connection. Would she muster the courage to confront her loyalty to a father who seemed so far removed from the love she yearned for? The decision loomed, and just as the dawn of clarity emerged, another shadow of uncertainty crept in. Lily awoke the next morning, her dreams still echoing with the warmth of laughter. The sun spilled through the elegantly draped curtains, illuminating the cold, polished surfaces of her room. Yet even in this brightness, a storm brewed inside her. a battle between the scripted life prescribed by her father and the vibrant existence she had briefly tasted with Jake. At breakfast, her father sat at the head of the table, the morning news droning in the background, a stark reminder of their diverging worlds. He looked up, momentarily distracted from his phone. "How was the event last night, sweetheart?" His tone was casual but layered with expectation. "It was fine," Lily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Connecting the dots of her home life and her newfound freedom felt risky, almost defeating. Would confirming her awareness of the world outside their bubble only cement the isolation that lurked in each conversation? Just fine? He tilted his head, brow furrowing as if measuring her sentiment. "You should take advantage of these occasions to network, build connections." His words hung heavy between them. She read an unspoken urgency in them. What did he truly know about connections? Her heart raced, a reflex of rebellion forcing its way to the surface. "I think connections matter more when they're real, don't you?" The moment the words escaped her mouth, disbelief settled in. Who was she, at 10 years old, challenging her father? His fork paused mid-air, surprise flickering in his eyes, but it quickly turned to concern. "Lily, you need to understand the importance of your future. This life, these connections will shape who you are." As she stared at him, she felt a flicker of determination. What future was he talking about? One where she meticulously followed an expected path, devoid of genuine emotions and moments? As he resumed eating, she too turned her gaze away, now battling her own unyielding doubts. After breakfast, with the tension still thick in the air, she knew she had to explore the freedom she barely grasped. Deciding to meet Jake again, she found herself wandering the familiar path to the park, her heart lit with nervous excitement. Each step felt like a declaration. She was carving a small escape from a world that often felt suffocating. When she arrived, Jake was there, his laughter already ringing through the air. Instinctively, her shoulders relaxed as he ran up to her, excitement brightening his face. "We were just about to play a game," he exclaimed, motioning toward his friends. For the first time, Lily felt a spark of defiance against her father's expectations. She grinned, her voice steadied by the thrill of belonging. "I want to join." As they played, that simmering joy morphed into something more profound, a sense of agency over her choices. She tackled the ball with a fierceness she hadn't known she possessed, and as she scored a goal, exhilaration coursed through her. After the game, the group collapsed onto the grass, laughter echoing around them. Jake turned to her. "I'm really glad you came. Do you want to come back tomorrow?" Her pulse quickened. This small request felt monumental. "Yes," she replied, her voice steadier than it had been all morning. But as elation filled her, another pang of guilt stabbed at her heart, her father's voice haunting her, demanding her loyalty. Somewhere deep inside, she grappled with her choices. Pursuing this friendship meant nesting in the conflict of her life at home. Could she continue nurturing this blooming hope without losing herself in the expectations that framed her? As she made her way back, every step filled with the weight of her decisions, she could almost hear the distant echoes of laughter mingling with whispers of doubt. Lily gazed up at the sky, battling the urge to turn back. Could she find the strength to navigate this convoluted path, creating a space where joy and familial expectations could coexist? That evening, a soft breeze rustling outside her window brought a fleeting promise of change. But with it came a stark reminder. The time for her to truly confront her father was drawing near. Would she be courageous enough to express her desires, to articulate her need for authenticity over societal expectations? She drifted into sleep with that thought wrapping around her mind, uncertain yet undeniably eager for what came next. Lily woke the next morning feeling the weight of contradiction pressing against her like heavy clouds. Each ray of sunlight felt like a reminder of the vibrant world outside, a stark contrast to the shadows of expectations lurking within her home. The warmth of her laughter-filled memories with Jake clashed with her father's steady insistence on networking, career ambitions, and polished public personas. Breakfast was a tense ritual. Her father spoke of a high-profile investor he had met recently, encasing his enthusiasm within the shell of duty. "You should find opportunities there, Lily," he mentioned absent-mindedly, as if her presence was merely a formality in his relentless itinerary. "Opportunities?" she echoed, her voice laced with confusion. "What kind?" "Enhancing your social circles, securing your future," he replied casually, still fixated on his smartphone screens. But as he spoke, a fire ignited in her. What future was he crafting for her? One steeped in relentless ambition, devoid of warmth and genuine connection? Her fingers fiddled with the edge of the tablecloth, battling the urge to lash out. "What if the people don't matter?" she asked, vulnerability creeping into her tone. "What good are connections if they're not real?" He finally met her gaze, setting the phone down. For a moment, the air crackled with resolve. "You'll understand when you're older, sweetheart. Love and real relationships, those are for after you establish your career," he replied, but the sympathy in his tone only made her resolve strengthen. As soon as breakfast ended, she slipped out to the park, her heart racing with anticipation. The sun warmed her skin, yet the storm within had not eased. The thrill of playing soccer with Jake surged to the forefront of her mind, drowning out her father's words. Upon arrival, Jake was there, surrounded by friends, laughter spilling into the air like music. His welcoming smile felt like a blanket of acceptance wrapping around her insecurities. When she joined the group, the joy was palpable. It coursed through her veins, infusing each moment with a sense of belonging she craved. They played passionately, and every goal she scored propelled her confidence beyond what she thought was possible. For the first time, she was not just the daughter of a powerful businessman. She was an athlete, a peer, vibrant and whole. Each radiant smile exchanged with Jake seemed to solidify her resolve. After the game, they lounged in the fading afternoon light, stretched out on the grass, as if the weight of adult expectations had temporarily lifted. Jake turned to her, his eyes sparkling. "You were amazing out there. When can we play again?" The question sent tremors of excitement through her. "Tomorrow," she responded without hesitation, the word emerging like a declaration from her newly fortified spirit. Each yes was a brushstroke against the canvas of her life, coloring it with choice and agency, yet it also deepened the conflict brewing within her. Lily's thoughts drifted to her father's looming presence. Could she engage fully with this new reality without compromising her commitment to the life he envisioned for her? How could she paint a future that embraced the authentic connections she craved while honoring her family's expectations? As evening drew near and shadows lengthened, she walked home with a weighty heart. Thoughts spiraled around self-definition, daring to challenge the constraints she was born into. Could she find a balance between the fiery joy she felt with Jake, the rigid pathways her father laid? The evening air is thick with unspoken possibilities. And as she glanced at her reflection in a storefront window, she barely recognized the girl staring back, fierce yet uncertain. The future was closing in, and the question twisted in her gut like an unresolved puzzle. How long could she tiptoe between two worlds without breaking? Her resolve was palpable, a determination bubbling beneath her skin. The impending conversation with her father haunted her mind like a specter. The time to confront and clarify her desires was fast approaching, and she knew the discussions would not just shape her tomorrow, but redefine who she was. The sun dipped beyond the horizon, and within her heart, a drum of courage began to beat a little louder. Would she muster the strength to demand authenticity over conformity? The answer felt tantalizingly close, yet incredibly distant, as she entered the silent familiarity of her home. As dawn broke with a gentle light, Lily found herself awakening to a haze of decision and uncertainty. The stillness in her room served as a sanctuary for reflection, yet the call of her father's ambitions snipped at the edges of her newfound resolve. Today was the day she needed to solidify her stance, a line drawn in the sand between who she was expected to be and who she was beginning to understand herself to be. She dressed deliberately, each choice a step toward reclaiming her identity. The vibrant, athletic outfit showcased her growing confidence, a stark contrast to the polished dresses her father often favored for networking events. As she pulled on her sneakers, an electric thrill coursed through her. Today she would engage in two dialogues, one with the world outside and another with the voice inside that had long been suppressed. Stepping into the backyard for a moment of stillness, Lily inhaled the fresh morning air. The excitement of soccer with Jake bubbled in her veins like a potion of bravery. But lurking beneath that was the weight of her father's expectations, the silent specter that had haunted her every choice. The plan was simple. She would meet Jake at the park, express her joy about their growing friendship, and hint at her aspirations beyond just soccer. The underlying tension between wanting her father's approval and her desire for authentic relationships felt like a knife's edge. But as she left her house, determination bubbled within her. Today she would step into her truth. When she arrived at the park, the energy was palpable. Kids scattered across the field, laughter mixing with the sound of bouncing balls as Jake spotted her. His smile, the kind that melted away defenses, invited her to slide into the moment without hesitation. "Ready to show off your skills?" he asked, nudging her playfully. The camaraderie warmed her, grounding her in a way she hadn't felt before. After a spirited game where she played like a woman possessed, the group collapsed on the grass, breathless with joy. It was an exhilarating contrast to the suffocating conversations at home, and she knew she had to share her thoughts with Jake before the moment faded. "Jake," she began, the sun casting shadows across their faces, "I need to tell you something." The sudden weight of her own words surprised her, but the sincerity in his gaze felt like an anchor. "What's up?" he replied, propping himself on one elbow. I really enjoy spending time with you. It's like I can be myself." She hesitated, searching for the right words. "But there's all this pressure from my dad about what I should be doing. It's like I'm supposed to fit into this mold, and I just don't know if I want that." Her confession hung in the air, and the silence that followed felt as thick as fog. Jake's face transformed from curiosity to understanding, and she saw recognition in his eyes. "You should do what makes you happy, Lily. You deserve that," he said, his sincerity evident. His words acted like a balm to her festering wounds, slightly easing the tension coiling in her stomach. "But what if my dad doesn't see it that way?" she pressed, the unease creeping back in. "Then you show him," he replied, firm in his belief. "You stand up for what you want. You're tough enough to do that." His faith in her ignited something latent within. Perhaps it was the realization that she didn't have to wade through this uncertainty alone. The conversation lingered with her as they parted ways that day, the weight of choice feeling less strenuous, more like an opportunity for authenticity. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden rays around her as she walked home, the courage filling her like a spring breeze. She felt a tug in her heart, sensing that the conversation with her father loomed near, like an unwelcome storm cloud ready to burst. The clarity Jake had inspired within her urged her onward. Would she grasp the reins of her own destiny, or allow the tide of expectations to pull her back into the shadows? With each step toward home, she could feel doubt stirring, whispering caution against the boldness she began to embrace. But with the sun at her back, she vowed to carry that light into the forthcoming storm. As she entered the house, determination swelled within, juxtaposed against the familiar, encroaching shadows of expectation. Lily knew the critical question awaited her. Would she finally seize the moment and demand her voice be heard, or would she allow herself to be engulfed by the darkness of others' designs? The hour had come to carve out her truth. The air within the house felt thick with unresolved tension, an almost tangible barrier between her and her father's expectations. As she stepped inside, the familiar scent of polished wood and cologne wrapped around her like an old, suffocating blanket. The living room was meticulously organized, an embodiment of the stringent order her father enforced in life. Each framed photo captured moments of success, but none resonated with the burgeoning storm inside her. The sun had fully set, casting an oppressive darkness that seemed to echo the swirling doubts in her mind. She found her father in his study, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminating his papers, each document a reminder of the ambitions he harbored for her future. He looked up, surprise flickering briefly in his eyes. "Lily," he said, his voice of affection and authority, "how was your day?" She hesitated, the words sitting just beneath the surface, struggling for form. "It was good. I played soccer with Jake." The simplicity of her reply felt inadequate against the weight of the conversation she intended to have. "Jake, again?" The way he said it was almost dismissive. "You should focus more on your studies and the summer internship I arranged." Heat surged to her cheeks, stoking the fire of defiance she had kindled earlier that day. "Dad, can we talk? About what I want?" There it was, a catalyst, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. What had once been merely a whisper was now a loud proclamation. His brow furrowed, and he leaned back in his chair, the air thickening with unspoken challenge. "What you want is to prepare for the future. You're far too young to be swayed by distractions. Soccer is just a game." The dismissal crashed against her like icy rain, and she felt the fight surge within her. "But it's not just a game for me. It's what I love. I want to explore that. I want to be who I am, not who you think I should be." In that moment, the stillness hung in the air, a bottleneck of emotions, fear, anger, vulnerability. Her father's eyes narrowed as he processed her words, the tension radiating from him, and it propelled her forward. "Do you even hear yourself, Dad? All you've ever wanted is for me to fit into your vision of success. I feel like I'm losing myself." The admission slipped out, unfiltered and raw. Lily braced for his retort, the wave of resistance threatening to crash down upon her plea. He opened his mouth, but for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. "I'm just trying to prepare you for life," he finally said, his voice softer than she expected. "But at what cost?" she shot back, emboldened by her earlier conversation with Jake. "Is my happiness not worth more than your dreams for me?" Silence engulfed the room as the words settled. In that stillness, she took a mental step back, surveying the ground she'd staked. The conversation was teetering on the edge of an abyss, one where there was either reconciliation or irreparable fracture. "I know you want what's best, but can you honestly say you've considered what that means for me?" Her heart raced, the determination she had nurtured echoing like a drum in her ears. His shoulders slumped slightly, a resigned acceptance settling over his expression. "I want you to succeed, Lily, but maybe—" He paused, and she caught a glimpse of vulnerability behind his stoic facade. "Maybe I haven't listened enough." The admission shocked her. It was a small crack, but one she was ready to exploit. "Then let's talk, really talk about what I want. What if my definition of success doesn't align with yours?" She saw a flicker of acknowledgement cross his face, and the chasm that had defined their relationship began to tremble under the weight of truth. Just as hope began to bloom within her, a twist of anxiety wormed its way into her chest. Had she gone too far? The uncertainty loomed dangerously as she waited for his response. How deeply had they just waded into the waters of vulnerability, and could they navigate back to shore without capsizing? He exhaled slowly, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond her, and as the moment hung in space, anticipation crackled, leaving her heart racing. Was he finally ready to meet her halfway, or would he retreat to the safety of his plans? The moment hung suspended, heavy with the promise of change, or the sharp sting of disappointment. Lily braced herself, ready to confront whatever came next, as the shadows of their separate lives threatened to eclipse the light between them. As the silence stretched, Lily's body hummed with an undercurrent of hope. Her heart thrummed in her chest, an anxious reminder of what was at stake. She had fought hard to carve out her identity in a world that seemed determined to shape her into someone she wasn't. Now, with her father's tentative acknowledgement, it felt as if a door had cracked open. "Lily, her father began, stopping short as he seemed to wrestle with his thoughts, the architect of her future suddenly caught in an unexpected storm of uncertainty. His voice faltered, but wasn't barricaded from a level of honesty she had rarely seen from him. "This isn't easy for me. I've always believed that stability comes with the right choices. I thought that you knew what's best for me," she interjected, the heat of her passion surging forth. "But maybe you don't. Maybe my path is different from what you envisioned. Do you really think that pushing me into that internship will make me happy?" His eyes locked onto hers, and she could see the conflict brewing behind them, turbulent and raw. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, his lips formed a tight line, and for a moment the turmoil of fatherly love and ambition played itself out across his face. She knew she should feel a measure of empathy, but all she felt was the ache of years spent under his expectations. "Lily, I want you secure. I want you to thrive in a world that can be hostile," he finally said, his voice strained. "I just don't want you to struggle like I did." Her breath hitched at the revelation. Had he truly believed that? Had his drive stemmed from a place of fear, a shadow of his own failures lurking beneath the surface? "But Dad, I won't know if I'll thrive until I try," she replied softly, suddenly aware of the depth of their shared anxiety. "It's like soccer. If I never play, how can I hope to get better? How can I be who I am if I'm not allowed to take risks?" He leaned back, the chair creaking under the weight of this new reality. For a moment, he looked defeated, almost broken. It was a rare sight, and Lily felt a wave of tender affection crash over her resentment. "Then what is it you truly want?" he asked, his tone now probing instead of confrontational. The question rang like a clarion call, reverberating within her. A flicker of uncertainty enveloped her. What did she want? The answer, once confidently lodged deep in her heart, now seemed shrouded in doubt. I want to play soccer seriously," she found herself saying. "I want to try out for the team this spring and see where it leads me. I want to feel the ball at my feet and the rush of victory, not the confines of a corporate desk. I want to see how far I can go without worrying about whether it aligns with your plans." The weight of her confession settled in the air like fog, and every inch of her scanned her father's face for acknowledgement of her ambition. Would he find a way to embrace the vision she held dear? Instead, the moment unraveled as her father's gaze drifted toward the framed photographs that lined the study walls, images of awards, accolades, and pivotal moments of his storied career. "Soccer is challenging. Can you guarantee that it won't lead to disappointment?" This question struck deeper than she anticipated. Disappointment. It loomed like a specter, one that she had avoided confronting. But as the words hung in the air, she realized that avoiding the fear of failure was its own form of failure. "I can't," she finally responded, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I won't let the fear of disappointment keep me from pursuing what I love." His expression was inscrutable, and the air grew heavy with the weight of decisions yet to be made. The storm they had weathered together threatened to change their relationship irrevocably. Yet she stood firm, daring to hope for something beyond the tangible bounds of success. Then the clock on the wall began ticking louder, each second echoing in the silence of expectation. "Lily," he started again, though this time his voice held a different tone, softer yet firm. "I think we need to discuss a plan, something that can work for both of us." As he spoke, a glimmer of relief washed over her. But beneath it lingered uncertainty. She had asked for autonomy, yet how much would she be willing to relinquish in the negotiation to claim her dreams? The conversation turned, veering into a realm of compromise neither had anticipated. Lily leaned forward, her heart racing with apprehension and excitement. What would emerge from this entangled web of desires? As they dove deeper into the heart of the discussion, a flicker of her past ambitions danced in her mind. In this moment, one question emerged, potent with the thrill of potential. Was she ready to fully embrace herself, even if it meant crossing the uncharted lines of her father's love? The days that followed that pivotal conversation blurred together, filled with a mixture of anxiety and excitement. Lily found herself oscillating between determination and hesitation, caught in a whirlwind of strategic planning. Her father had surprised her by being open to her ideas, yet the unspoken conditions weighed heavily on her mind. What would come next? Her afternoons were consumed with exhaustive practices on the field, where the sun bore down and the sweat glistened on her brow like tiny jewels. Each kick of the ball filled her with elation, yet the shadow of her father's expectations loomed large. It was exhilarating to play freely, but the thought of disappointing him if she failed laid like a stone in her gut. Before long, the adrenaline of trainings began to reveal another facet of herself she had long ignored, the thrill of overcoming her own limits. She pushed herself harder with every run, driven not only by passion, but by the new desire to prove herself. Lily began to notice the shift within her. She was no longer playing just to escape her father's ambitions, but was starting to play for her own sense of achievement and fulfillment. There was a fire ignited by self-discovery she had long yearned for yet never truly grasped. One day, after a particularly intense training session, she collapsed onto the grass, breathing heavily. As the world around her stilled, she contemplated the distance she had traveled thus far. The thoughts swirled, chaotic yet hopeful. She remembered the disappointing conversations that over time had suffocated her aspirations. It was a revelation that she needed to consider. Self-doubt, long propagated by her father's unrelenting focus on achievement, was vastly different from the introspection born of risk and vulnerability. It was the weekend before the tryouts when the anxiety truly set in. The evening was thick with stillness, as if the world were holding its breath in anticipation. A voice echoed in her thoughts, one that mirrored her father's warnings about the possible heartache ahead. "Can you guarantee you won't fail?" it seemed to taunt. She forced herself to confront it, internalizing these thoughts as she paced the living room. "Okay, what if I fail?" she spoke aloud to the empty room, wrestling with the demon that her fears had become. "What if I do? But what if I succeed?" Power of that last question struck her like a lightning bolt. Taking risks always bore the possibility of disappointment, yet success required that same leap of faith. In stark contrast to her father's perceived world of defined certainty, Lily began to embrace success as a tapestry woven from moments of struggle, pride, and even failure. The thought bolstered her resolve, and she began to draft rough plans on how she could navigate the tryouts. Later that week, following one of her practices, she received an unexpected message. A school friend who had previously played in the same league invited her to join a weekend scrimmage, a local event that would showcase potential players to scouts and coaches. It was an opportunity that sent a rush of adrenaline through her veins. Her fingers hovered over her phone screen as she contemplated the implications. She could either seize this chance to showcase her talent or retreat into the safety of her self-imposed boundaries. As she mulled it over, the anticipation of success ignited a spark. The decision converged into a singular focus. She accepted the invitation with a determined spirit, throwing herself into the flux of possibilities. The notion of confronting uncertainty turned palpable, shifting into an exhilarating challenge. With the tryouts a mere week away, she felt liberated, daring to step into the space where fear had once shrouded her aspirations. But as the scrimmage day approached, a looming question echoed in her mind. Would her father understand her choices and the role they played in her evolution? Standing on the threshold of a new chapter, Lily prepared herself to both embrace the thrill of soccer and confront the complexity of familial expectations. She felt acutely aware, however, that the most significant match lay not on any field, but within her heart. Would she be ready to face not just the trials of the game, but also the ultimate confrontation with her father's vision versus her own? The defining moment was drawing near, and with it came the promise of revelation. On the day of the scrimmage, Lily awoke with a rush of exhilaration and fear, her heart thundering in time with a new rhythm that felt as foreign as it was thrilling. She lay still for a moment, her mind racing through the scenarios that had built a dense web of anxiety around her. What if she floundered? What if she stumbled when her moment of glory arrived? Yet, as she sat up, the sun poured through her window like a promise, illuminating each corner of her room and igniting an ember of determination. Dressing in her vibrant cleats and favorite jersey, each piece of clothing felt like an armor. She stood before the mirror, allowing herself a moment of introspection. This was not just about the game, it represented a reclaiming of her identity. With her father's voice echoing in her mind, she inhaled deeply, fortifying herself against the doubts that threatened to drown her spirit. The drive to the field was a swirl of colors and sounds, as if the world outside were a living canvas of possibilities waiting to be sketched. The anticipation reminded her of the practices, those hours spent refining her movements, discovering the power within her legs, the grace in her transitions. Each practice had chipped away at the doubts, molding a more confident version of herself. Yet today was different. Stakes were higher. When she arrived, the field stretched before her like an invitation. She spotted familiar faces and shook hands, every interaction reinforcing her commitment to seize the day. But beneath the surface, a brewing storm of apprehension lingered. The realization that scouts would be watching sparked a flicker of fear that threatened to snuff out her flame. As the whistle blew, signaling the commencement of the scrimmage, Lily took her position, her instincts kicking in. The first few minutes felt surreal, each touch of the ball sending jolts of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She found herself lost in the game. The weight of expectations began to lift, replaced by the sheer joy of movement and competition. Yet, mid-game, her instincts crumbled. There she stood, faced with a pivotal play. An opponent approached, and in that moment, the pressure mounted, her father's critical voice echoing in her head. "Don't waste your talent, Lily." She hesitated, a split second stretched like eternity, then made the decision to go for it. She sidestepped, dodged the opponent, and unleashed a kick that sent the ball soaring. The exhilaration coursed through her as it swerved past the goalkeeper and into the net. Cheers erupted around her, but the celebration wasn't the victory. It was the liberation that surged within, an awareness that emerged in that euphoric instant. She was no longer just a reflection of her father's ambitions. She was carving her own path, melding her aspirations with a burgeoning sense of self. However, as she soaked in the moment, an unsettling thought crept in. Was the applause meant for her, or merely the realization of her father's elusive dreams? Would she ever escape his shadow? The elation faded, giving way to a profound understanding of the complexity of success. Winning today felt hollow if it wasn't anchored by her own truth. As the game concluded, Lily walked off the field, triumphant yet introspective. Faces blurred into one another as she scanned the sidelines, searching for a flicker of pride in her father's gaze. Instead, she found him engaged in conversation, eyes diverting from her moment of achievement. The hollow thud of disappointment mixed with her elation ignited a fierce awareness. She longed for acceptance not just from him, but from herself. The realization that her journey was just beginning sent a jolt through her. Would the courage she displayed on the field translate into the daunting conversation awaiting her once she returned home? The weight of the impending confrontation loomed heavy. With every step, she recognized that breaking free from the grip of expectation was going to be the real challenge. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she wondered intently if she could embrace this dual journey, a pursuit for her dreams alongside the reckoning with her father's vision. The day had been a revelation, yet just as the player in her thrived, the daughter within trembled at the forthcoming battle for her identity. Would she have the bravery to claim her voice in a world dominated by her father's ambitions? The answer danced precariously between her and the night, shimmering just out of reach, waiting for the moment to unfold. Walking into her house felt like entering a theater, with an audience silently awaiting the performance she was about to deliver. The vibrant atmosphere that had enveloped her at the field shattered into a muted silence, the echoes of cheers fading into the air thick with expectation. Lily could feel the walls closing in as she approached her father, who stood with an air of detached confidence, his gaze still locked on his phone. "Dad," she began, her voice wavering uncertainly. He glanced up, eyes narrowing slightly, before returning to his screen. "Did you win, Lily?" "Yeah," she replied, injecting forced enthusiasm into her response. "I scored a goal." "Good to hear. That's what you practice for." His indifference hit her like a cold wave, dousing her elation into a puddle of doubt. She had hoped for a spark of pride, a glimmer of acknowledgement that would validate her hard work, but received instead was a mechanical response. The sting of disappointment lingered as she swallowed her frustration. Why did the reality of his pride seem so unattainable? Was she only valued as a piece in his game, a reflection of his own ambitions? They had rehearsed this routine many times, yet each time it struck her with fresh ferocity. Taking a deep breath, she felt a swell of courage. "Dad, could we talk? About my future? About what I want?" The challenge she proposed silently terrified her, her heart racing at the prospect of confrontation. He finally looked at her, brow furrowing in mild confusion. "What do you mean? You just need to keep improving. College scouts will be there if you stay focused." "But it's more than that." The words poured out before she could stop herself, each syllable charged with pent-up anguish. "I want to know what I want, and not just what you want for me." For a moment, the silence thickened, filled only with the unspoken realities between them. Lily's heart hammered against her chest, awareness dawning with each dream she had suppressed. Here she was, on the precipice of defining her own desires, ready to step into a new light free of her father's shadow. "What do you think you want?" His voice held a tightness, as if he was unaccustomed to such direct engagement. "I want to play soccer because I love it, but I also want to explore other things. I want to figure out who I am without—" She paused, grappling with her emotions. "Without living only for you." His expression hardened, and for an instant Lily feared she had crossed an invisible line. She braced herself for dismissal, yet to her surprise, he hesitated. The falter in his gaze painted a fleeting picture of something she was unprepared to dissect: uncertainty. "Lily," he began, but faltered again, perhaps considering his words. In that brief silence, an opportunity unfurled, a doorway separating her past from a potential future she could influence. "I need to find my own way, Dad." Determination flooded her voice, unfurling a resolve that brightened her spirit. "This isn't just about soccer. It's about my path, my life." His demeanor shifted, the air thickened with unexpressed thoughts that swirled between them. What if he understood? What if he didn't? "Then what path do you want for yourself?" His inquiry cut through the tension, but within it she sensed the faintest invitation for dialogue, the first step toward potential reconciliation of their conflicting worlds. Lily paused, contemplating the many possibilities she craved to explore, the ideas waiting to break free. What did she want beyond the field? What hidden passions lay within her grasp, waiting for occupancy? The answer was still hidden somewhere deep inside her, leaving her with the electrifying urgency to uncover who she was meant to become. The next steps required courage, courage she could feel surging beneath the surface. As she stood in the doorway of her own evolution, the next moment would determine if her father could bridge the chasm in their relationship, or if she would need to take the leap on her own. Would he embrace her journey, or would she have to seize it without him? The question loomed heavily in the air, an unresolved tension that marked the beginning of her ascent into self-discovery. Lily took a deep breath, feeling the words she had held back for too long finally bubbling to the surface. This was a moment she had long imagined, a pivotal turning point in her relationship with her father. A chance to define herself, not just in opposition to him, but as an individual with dreams and aspirations unrelated to his expectations. "I want to try out for the school soccer team this spring and see where it leads me," she declared, her resolve echoing off the walls of the study. "Not for you, but for me, to truly understand what I'm capable of, on the field and beyond. I want to embrace the full spectrum of life, not just the highlights as dictated by your standards." His brow furrowed, and for the first time she caught a glimpse of uncertainty dancing in his eyes, a concern that perhaps he had been living in a suffocating bubble of his own making. His silence was heavy, laden with a myriad of unspoken thoughts, and it urged her forward. "Dad, I'm not asking for permission to fail. I'm asking for the chance to learn and grow. I want to pursue soccer, not just as a game, but as an expression of who I am. I want to experience challenges, successes, and yes, even failures, as part of my journey toward becoming my own person." The weight of her words felt liberating, a release of pent-up fears and emotions. She saw him shifting slightly, as if considering the walls he had built around them both. Each crack in those walls aligned with her own deep-seated aspirations. "How can I respect your passion for the game when it feels like your future is all mapped out by someone else's vision?" he finally replied, authenticity tinged with caution bridging the gap between rebellion and approval. Lily's heart raced. "It doesn't have to be an either-or situation. I want us both to find a way forward. Yes, I respect what you've built and the places you want to see me succeed, but can we redefine success together? Let's design a future that allows me to explore not just soccer, but whatever else inspires me." For a moment, the air crackled with possibilities, her ambition against the backdrop of his expectations, and as if the universe conspired in their favor, he finally nodded slowly, contemplating her words. "And what does that look like exactly?" he pressed, voice tinged with caution, yet slowly transforming into a probe for what lay ahead. "It looks like me trying out for the team this spring and committing to that journey, while also keeping my grades up and maintaining my focus on school. It means having open conversations about my growth as an individual, rather than seeing me solely as the extension of your dreams." As she painted this picture, a sense of ease washed over her. The tension that had once suffocated both of them inspired a compelling glimpse of hope. This was not just a negotiation, this was a collaboration towards reflecting their true selves, a kind of renaissance neither knew they needed. His demeanor softened, the previous lines of tension in his forehead easing. "I realize I've been focused on my vision for you, but maybe it's time to step back a little. It's hard for me to detach from the way I've always understood success. Let's try this together." "Together," she echoed, the word illuminating possibilities. The camaraderie they'd both longed for hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. As if forging an unbreakable bond, Lily felt strength pour into her veins. Days rolled into weeks, and each moment shared in their new dynamic unveiled layers of their connection that had been long buried. Lily learned to hone her skills on the field, driven by her own passion and determination. She began to not just play soccer, but to live it, relishing each moment, and strive for the next level of her own success. In their kitchen one evening, while preparing dinner together, her father commented on a particularly promising article about youth athletes. She smiled, sensing the shift in their dialogue. "Can I bring you copies of my training sessions? The highlights from scrimmages? I want you to see my progress," she suggested, excitement bubbling beneath her chest. His response came as an affirmation of his solidarity. "Yes, I'd love to see that, actually." Their shared laughter echoed through the house, forging once absent warmth into a familial love that felt renewed. As tryouts approached, the dread she once felt transformed into enthusiasm. During the final scrimmage before the big day, she scored multiple goals and even assisted some teammates. For the first time, she played with unwavering confidence, her father cheering from the sidelines, pride illuminating his face. When the day of tryouts arrived, Lily stood ready, adrenaline coursing through her. The effort she put into every practice resonated deep within her. She was no longer just seeking approval, but rather living out her truth. The fear of failure faded as she took to the field. Each touch, pass, and sprint felt like a celebration of who she had become. Days later, the email finally arrived. The team roster. As she clicked open the message, her heart thundered. She had made the soccer team. Joy erupted. But beyond jubilance, Lily felt transformed. She realized that this success was not merely about attaining a title, but an embodiment of her growth as an individual. It solidified her journey, underscoring the importance of honoring oneself amidst the complexity of relationships and expectations. She turned to her father, sharing the news, grasping his hands in excitement. "I did it, Dad!" she exclaimed, practically vibrating with joy. The moment was met with genuine applause, but it wasn't just for her achievement. It symbolized the shared aspirations of both father and daughter, embracing each other's journeys forward. "I'm proud of you, Lily," he finally said, his voice suffused with warmth and sincerity. A recognition of her autonomy mixed with admiration bloomed as they reveled in the moment together. As they embraced, Lily realized that the path she had forged was not just hers alone. It was a landscape they'd built alongside each other, crafting a narrative of mutual respect and understanding. She was empowered to step boldly into her future, and she knew this was only the beginning. The signpost of her childhood innocence now forged into a testament of determination and love, a promise to pursue what inspired her unapologetically. With the dawn of new horizons ahead, she embraced herself fully as both a daughter and an audacious young woman chasing her dreams. Eagerly, she set her sights beyond soccer, ready to embrace everything life threw her way. The echoes of laughter, synchronization of dreams, and unwavering support from her father infused her with an indomitable spirit, ready to conquer any challenge. Now was the moment to thrive, to seize not just opportunities, but also the endless exploration of who she was meant to be. This was the beginning of a new narrative, a powerful destiny curated by Lily. And with that, she stepped into her future, armed with a newfound confidence to forever shape her own story. Now that you've witnessed the breathtaking transformation of Lily, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support more incredible journeys like Lily's. Comment below with your thoughts on her inspiring growth, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this remarkable conclusion. Your engagement helps keep the magic alive.